to...
Welcome to another episode of On the Shot. We're here this week with our guest, Marc Maron. You're the king of digital media right now, I suppose.
Am I? Finally, I'm the king of something that is recognizable and not just in my head.
Well, you just finished your first week here, or your week here in Louisville. You ever been here before?
I don't think I've ever been to Louisville. I think I was in Lexington, but I think that was for a wedding. And then I don't think I've ever been to Kentucky.
Well, odds are in Lexington was a shotgun wedding, I had to guess.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It was quick. It happened on a horse farm. So it was a very high-end shotgun wedding.
So did you have a good time here?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It's a great city. Ate some good food. Ate too much food. Ate too much shitty food. The shows were good. Club was nice. Just got a little weird one night, one show. So that's good. Weird's good.
Well, you were telling a story, and I've got to hear more about you being on the radio with Brent Owen.
I know. Well, what happened was I was on that dude Terry's show. Terry
Miners?
Yeah, who's a good guy. He's a radio guy. He was a pro, and I know how to do radio, so he was excited to have me, and we were having a nice conversation. And he wanted to have, he's been trying to get Rand Paul on to address the bridge thing, and then the senator called in while I was on, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, do I want to hijack this thing? Do I want to infuse my liberal fucking bullshit into this moment and make everything uncomfortable? And I sadly opted to sit it out. It was a local political thing. Terry was trying to get the guy on the show. I'm going to walk out of that room, and somehow or another in that moment it was more important that I respect the radio guy than disrespect the senator. And that was a weird decision for me to make, but it made the next segment better.
Did Rand Paul know that you were there? Did they mention that you were sitting there in the studio with them?
Yeah, but those guys, they don't register it. They've got their talking points, and it's very hard to deter them from their message anyways. I didn't know what I would really accomplish, other than to ask them, where's all the money going to come from? And why aren't you talking about jobs? You got a broken bridge right there. It seems like a primary opportunity then to just sort of push the message of federalism, out into whatever. I don't know that I had a clear agenda, and I just opted not to fuck it all up.
Well, do you remember your first time on stage?
I remember the first couple, yeah.
How did they go? Were they good, bad, terrible?
Well, it's like at that time, I think you could get off really quickly. I opened with some ridiculous joke where I'd come out, I pull a stool in the middle of the stage, I put the mic stand on top of it, and I just let it sit there for a minute, and I would say, I just went to the Museum of Modern Art, and I just let them register that image, and let them laugh, and I did a couple of other jokes. It didn't get horrible for a while, but I can't remember it being good or bad, because usually back then, you're doing open mics, you're going on late, there was 4 people, there's no way to judge. But they weren't awful. The awful stuff happened later.
What is the best thing you've ever put in your mouth, food or otherwise?
Oh, boy. Well, that's a tough question. There's been some desserts. There's been a couple of vaginas. It's probably somewhere in there. There's been a couple of great steaks. I don't know if I could really focus on a moment where I put something on. Oh, what was really good? This buttered popcorn pot de creme in Cleveland at the Greenhouse Tavern. This dude made, what pot de creme is? Like a pudding?
Yeah.
It's like a baked pudding. And this dude, the chef there, would make popcorn, butter it, then sort of extract the taste out of it through some process, and then make a vanilla pudding out of it. It was fucking insane.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And then maybe I think maybe the second vagina I had in my mouth was very exciting. I don't know if we could say wow, it was good, but I was excited to have it in my mouth. The first one's a little confusing.
Can you pinpoint your most embarrassing moment on stage?
You mean tonight?
Whichever one sticks out, I suppose.
I always try to have at least one embarrassing moment on stage. I remember early on, I was about to go on stage at an open mic in Boston at the Ding Ho, which was a pretty famous club. And, right before I went on, I spilled a drink in my lap. and there was no way it wasn't going to look like I pissed myself.
Oh.
And so it was really one of those decisions where either I bail on my spot or I just go on stage looking like I pissed myself. So that was kind of embarrassing. I remember that one. I remember probably the most brutally embarrassing night I had was I got a gig, a corporate gig, and it was not, someone had canceled and I didn't realize that. And it was this big corporate room. I had about 20 minutes of material. I was angry. I talked about AIDS and about drugs. And I got there and there was like a huge buffet in the middle of the room with an ice sculpture. And the tables were on the sides of the room. They just had a mic and a chair in the middle of this room. There were two buffets on either side. And these two women came up to me before the show. And they were like, talk about sports. They love sports. I'm like, I got nothing. And I just went up there and meekly tanked in the middle of a fucking dance floor next to an ice sculpture for a half an hour. I was sent home from Australia. Bombing in Australia was pretty horrible. That was really probably the most embarrassing because I bombed so badly that they sent me home from Australia. So I had 22 hours to sit there on a plane between connections, just wondering why the fuck I chose comedy. That was bad. Being sent home from a country, that's embarrassing.
Deported for not being funny.
Exactly. I wish it was a better story.
Can you name the first 5 Led Zeppelin albums?
Yeah, I think I probably could. 1, 2, and 3. Zopho. And either House of the Holy or Physical Graffiti.
Houses of the Holy is number 5, yeah. Correct. And our last question is, have you ever written a joke that has been too brutal or too vulgar or obscene or whatever to go on stage?
Yeah, there's a couple, but I've done them.
Would you care to share?
I used to do a joke, once or twice years ago. Well, there was a couple. There was one that had something to do with like a child molester's defense in court. Is like, come on, she was asking for it. She's just sitting there in those diapers. I mean, that one's pretty bad. There was one that I used years ago. I did a joke about going down on a girl, and she during when she came, she lost complete muscular control, and she shit in the bed. So I didn't know what to do. It was an awkward moment, so I stuck her nose in it and hit her with a newspaper and put her outside. That was pretty awful. I don't know. There's no way to defend either of those jokes. I did a joke recently where I said, like I was talking about my mother. I said I love my mother, but I'm not in love with her. And then the crowds are like, oh. I'm like, what? You can totally fuck your mother. and they're like, what? And they just horrendous response to that. And then I don't stop there. I say, no, listen to me, just hear me out. That moment where you leave home for the first time and your parents are tired of each other anyways, and you're all she has, and you're going off to college, and she's saying, bye, baby. You totally fuck her right there. You just choose not to. I'm just saying that after a certain age, incest and that relationship is really up to you.
Well, on that note, we want to thank Marc Maron. Thanks for taking us the time.
The sad thing is that joke's only a couple years old.
And we'll see you next week on The Shot.